welcome back to Bubble Buddies after another Toronto 6 win. We've got your post-game recap here. The Toronto 6 have ended their regular season with 4 now straight wins. They are 4-1-1, and they are going to be the top seed in the NWHL heading into the playoffs, which is just going to be a semifinal and then the Isabel Cup final. Cameron, what are your initial thoughts on that game?
Well, I did say this team keeps getting better each game, and I don't think that trend changed at all with that game.
Yeah, a very dominant 6-0, win for the Toronto 6 there. A bit of a statement as well. They've played with some of the best teams. Boston, Minnesota, they were there with Metro, even though they didn't get the win. But Connecticut, a bit of a weaker team, maybe compared to the, teams that they've been playing. But yeah, a bit of a statement saying that, we can beat the best teams and we're going to cream the weaker teams. All offense all day long, but not to, step on the toes of Shuley there, who had a 25 save shutout.
Yeah, another shutout. And keep in mind also, the game was still 0-0 almost halfway through. It started out pretty close. It was pretty even. There wasn't really much offense for either team. Neither team was getting a ton of chances. It was just kind of a quiet game. And then Toronto just kind of burst out of that with 6 goals. I think the play-by-play announcer mentioned at one point that this could be a low-scoring game, or maybe one team scores and it just opens the floodgates, and that's basically what happened. Toronto scored that first goal and just never looked back.
Yeah, at the start of the game, I know the announcers were kind of saying that they were, that the Whale is a team that kind of brings you down to their level. We can see teams like that where maybe they're not the most skilled teams, but they play a strong system. And if they get that opening goal, it's hard to, come back against them. So that first goal for Toronto was huge, just to kind of open the floodgates and say, okay, now you got to come back against us. With that, overpowering offense, there's a couple things I wanted to mention. Toronto now has the most goals of the entire NWHL. I believe they have 21 goals through, I guess it would now be 6 games. They've also got a couple powerhouse players. They got Michaela Grant-Memphis, who is now, I believe, leading the league in points with 9 points.
No surprise.
And in goals with 5 goals. In those goals there, the Toronto 6 have 3 players in the top 5, with Taylor Woods and Brianne Wilson-Bennett as well kind of in there. So just all offense, which actually wasn't really what I was expecting coming out of this team. If you go back to our kind of season prediction, I talk a lot about defense. But Cameron, are you surprised at all by the offense, or, did you kind of see this coming?
Well, I think I am surprised. I'm not surprised by the amount of skill that was on this team, but how well they're doing compared to their opponents who have been playing together for a long time, who have already, or at least for longer than this team has, who are already in this league and everything. Just amazing how well they're coming together. And on top of having a few good players, they're just getting production from all throughout the lineup, really. We saw Mackenzie McNeil score those 2 goals today, her first 2 of the tournament. We saw Amy Curlew score her first of the tournament. And then yesterday, Kudu Godbout scored her first goal. She's been playing on the second line most of the time. I think with the players down the last couple of games, she's been kind of playing all throughout the lineup. And yeah, I think she got a couple assists today as well. So they're just getting, even with 2 players from their first line out of the lineup, they're still getting a ton of offense, and players who hadn't scored yet have kind of risen to the occasion now, taking advantage of that opportunity with Bo Quist and Emma Woods out of the lineup.
Mm-hmm. And it just goes back to that depth that we've been talking about quite a bit. This team can roll lines and they're going to get production from everyone. Overall, I thought it was a bit more of a disciplined game. I think they only took 2 penalties, and, they've been really kind of getting into some penalty trouble, and they've been scoring their way out of it. But it was the Whale who ran into some penalty trouble, and, the 6 power play just looking deadly as well. Cameron, did you think that it was a well-disciplined game, or what more do you want to see from this team, I guess, heading into the playoffs and the semifinals?
Yeah, that was good to see, because that's one area that this Toronto team did need some improvement, I'd say. And good to see that even though they're not taking penalties, they're still capitalizing on their power play opportunities. So yeah, I think that's definitely a good sign going into the playoff round. But the way that they're playing now and improving every game, I don't think that there's much that really needs to be improved. But more so just not to take their foot off the gas, not get overconfident. Because, of course, there's still one game left on the other side. But if this Boston team does end up winning, I mean, anything can happen because obviously they haven't been that good in this tournament, but they were great last year. So they still have a ton of talent. If you get matched up against them in a one-game playoff, just because you're the 1 seed and they're the 4 seed, that doesn't mean you have a huge advantage. I think this Toronto team has to keep that in mind and not get overconfident or downplay their opponent at all.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you what you thought about having that number 1 seed, considering that there is a good chance that they'll be playing Boston. And we've seen today, you know, Boston exploded with 6 goals of their own and their own shutout. Kind of funny that both games were 6-0 today, to kind of stay alive in this tournament. And it just shows that this team is capable of really, you know, pulling a win out when it's needed and when their back's up against the wall. And so, you know, for Boston now, every single game is do or die, because even if they make it to that semifinal, it's do or die. Isabelle Cup, do or die. And that kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, like maybe things are coming together for them at the right time as well. So kind of goes with what I mentioned. Like it's a 1-game playoff. Anything can happen. Like just because Boston hasn't been as good for the rest of the tournament doesn't mean that you can't expect them to win this game. So I think either way, it's going to be a great semifinal game, especially between Toronto and Boston. Of course, Boston still has to win that last game. But if that were to happen, I mean, as good as a matchup it would be, I kind of hope for Toronto's sake that Buffalo ends up winning because I do think that would be an easier matchup. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking if we do end up getting Boston, like, watch out.
Yeah, Boston definitely, they definitely scare me. But Buffalo did play Toronto pretty hard in that one game, although there were the kind of COVID circumstances where Toronto wasn't anticipating having a game that day. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
Yep.
I want to get back to some of the predictions that I did, you know, all the way back in our first video. I'm going to claim that I predicted this. In my initial predictions, I said that they were going to, I thought that they were going to lose their first 3 games and then post back-to-back shutouts against Buffalo and Connecticut. And while I was wrong on 2 of the 3 parts of that prediction, I was right in that they did shut out Connecticut. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then I do have them I had the 6 facing off against Boston in the semifinal with Boston winning. Hopefully that's another prediction that I will be wrong on, and we will see the Toronto 6 heading to the Isabelle Cup. And I do think it's kind of funny that if they were to win the Isabelle Cup, it would have been 6 wins in a row for the 6.
Yeah, scoring 6 goals today too.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Just a couple more takeaways from this game. They had 37 shots on net. I believe that means that they're currently averaging about 40 shots on net per game.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see, especially in a game like this. Like, no scoring for that first half of the game, but if you keep putting the puck on the net, eventually things will start to go your way, and we definitely saw that happen.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, like a couple of the goals there weren't the nicest goals in the world. And that kind of goes to show, like, eventually if you keep putting pucks on the net, things will start to go your way. The luck will start to even out. Because as much as the goalie can make great saves, you see a couple of those weak ones go in. Like the one that Curlew scored, I think, like it was kind of a knuckle puck. They weren't sure if it was tipped or not. Then there was the wraparound by, I think that was McNeil that had the wraparound. And then there was the shot from the point by Taylor Woods. Not the prettiest goals in the world, but that's just what happens when you put the puck on the net.
Yeah, just making, you know, it's that famous quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, just getting, you know, rubber through to the net, and it, you know, hopefully one day goes in. Yeah, so let's get to player of the game. Cameron, who was your player of the game for tonight's 6-0 win?
I'd say maybe Mackenzie McNeil with the 2 goals.
I would say for me, it's Michaela Grant-Mentis. I think she's really emerged as one of the best players in the league, at least this weekend. She's had a phenomenal weekend, and she had 2 assists and a goal tonight. All over the score sheet, all over the ice. You know, great to see her just kind of dominating for this Toronto team. I think we should also
once again, like,
we have to shout out Chuli for her 25 save shutout as well.
Yeah. But yeah, Grant-Mentis, like we've mentioned her every game. She's just been consistent. Like, is there a single game where she hasn't gotten a point?
I don't know if there has been. Like I said, she is the lead leader in points right now. My math could be
Yeah.
off, but I'm pretty sure it is her. Yeah, just points per game average. She's averaging like I think 1.5 points now per game, maybe even more. Like she's
Yeah.
really just dominating this league.
And it was a pretty nice goal she scored today, not to mention, like she kind of deep to the backhand and stuff, beat the goalie right after Toronto scored that last goal. It kind of caught them off by surprise. But
Yeah.
so, I mean, she's been scoring throughout the whole tournament, but someone who hasn't necessarily been is Dark Angelo, the captain, which does she have a goal yet in the tournament?
I don't know if Dark Angelo has a goal yet in the tournament. A captain does show up in other ways than on the score sheet, but whenever the whole team's producing, like there were 6 goals tonight, I believe there was 5 separate goal scorers. That's a chance where you want your captain to maybe, join the party a bit. Maybe she has a coming out party and really just racks up the points in the playoffs, but we'll have to see.
I mean, I guess the point of the discussion is she's been a difference maker every game. Like you don't go a single game without noticing her. I think she's played pretty well. She's been comparable to Ilya Mikheyev on the Leafs this year because I think he could have about 10 goals right now, but he hasn't scored yet. I think Dark Angelo's kind of been the same, which, I mean, I think she's a player that I predict maybe in the semifinals or finals, if they get there, she'll emerge and maybe be the hero, score a winning goal.
Yeah, maybe on our next full podcast episode, we'll have to revisit our predictions and kind of have our playoff predictions.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it from us. Stay tuned. Obviously, more Bubble Buddy content coming as the playoffs start. And, let's keep rolling Toronto 6 and let's see if we can make a cup run.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be us signing off. Thank you for tuning in.